Hello, listeners. So excited to have you back for another exclusive episode of the Connected Spirit podcast. I'm really excited for today's guest because I've been following her on Instagram. I love her. She's blowing up the social media scene with loving, ethical information and her own spin on the spirit world. And so I want to introduce you today to Tayla Isabella. She's an international medium who is really passionate about bringing healing and guidance to those that have lost their loved ones. And it's her goal to learn all there is to know and prove the connection between the physical world and the afterlife. And let's dive in. Tayla, it's so excited to have you here on the show, love.
It's so nice to meet you. I've been following you too, and thank you so much for that. I'm excited to see where the conversation takes us. I really respect you and the work that you do, and I just think you're very incredible yourself. So I'm very grateful to be seated here with you today. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you. I'll take that as a major compliment. I love that. It's beautiful. We each have our own way of working with the spirit world, and it's so unique. And that's what I love about it. And that's what I love about you because your approach on social media is soft, it's gentle, it's loving, and it's resonant in that people of all different backgrounds and beliefs have this, can I say, their natural like gravitational pull towards you, which really opens the door to maybe exploring something about the spirit world or a mediumship that they wouldn't have otherwise. So I'm wondering if you could tell us, like, take us back a little bit. Where did Taylor's journey start? Like, what did your life look like growing up? And have you always been aware of the spirit world? And where did that kind of unfold for you?
That's a great question. So let's get into it. So the first experiences that I began to have with spirit, I was about 5 years old, and it was quite intense experiences actually. I would start to see this man within my bedroom. I shared a room with me and my younger sister at the time, and he'd always appear around the same time, about 11 p.m. every single night by the closet, and my bed was facing the closet, and like he was clear as day. I remember this very vividly, except he kind of had this blue aura around him, and he had blue jeans, he had a plaid shirt, he had a hat on, and he'd always just peep in and look at me. And I would freak out at that age because I didn't
Mhm.
understand what was happening. I was scared, my fear was involved, and my parents would come in and then asked me what was wrong. And this kind of continued for a while. Fast forward to me being about 11, 12. The years in between that, I was still having strange experiences, still seeing things. My parents didn't think much of it. I did grow up in a Catholic Christian household as well. So I went to a Catholic preschool, elementary school, high school, all of that. And my parents were very aware of the spiritual realm and all of that, and they were very open to it actually, despite of my Catholic Christian background. And they thought something was going on, but they didn't exactly know what it was. My sister started working at a convenience store called London Drugs. I feel that you probably have London Drugs where you're at. And they were working together in the photograph section, her and this woman named Michelle. And Michelle shared with my sister Alyssa that she was a professional medium. And my sister loved this. She shared this with my parents, and my parents were super open to it. And Michelle came to our home for a group reading. At the time, I was about 12. My mom let me know, hey, there's a medium coming to the house. I need you to just stay in your room because we're all going to be in a group and we want to be respectful when she's here and doing her thing. So
Yeah.
I was like, okay. And I had all these exciting emotions and I really wanted to be a part of it. But at that time, I wasn't supposed to be at that age. And she brought me up within this reading. She didn't know anything about me. She didn't know anything about my experiences. And she told my parents that she was told that I was having some pretty intense experiences with the spirit world. And she asked if she could speak with me. And my parents were completely open to it. They said, for sure, we can speak. You can speak to her. She's here. So she came and she spoke to me and she just, taught me how to set boundaries with them. And it's so interesting because after she taught me how to set boundaries, the connections kind of stopped. And she would show up on my doorstep. She'd bring me crystals and say, you need this. Here's protection stuff for you. And it was just really sweet. And she was that guide for me. Fast forward to high school, I wanted nothing to do with it. I also was in a Catholic school. So it's not exactly as popular with this religion, right? In the Catholic environment. So I kept it on the down low. Honestly, I kind of pushed that part of me away for a very, very long time. And then I ended up going to school and I went on a ski trip actually. And it's very interesting because for years and years, I pushed this part of me away. I wanted nothing to do with it. I wasn't being authentically myself. I'd worry about what people would think about me. And the universe worked in a very funny way. And they put me in a position where I had no other option but to open this part of my life up. So I went on a ski trip and I really injured my knee. And it was to the point where I almost thought that I wouldn't be able to walk on my own for about a year or so. So I was also serving at the time. I was in school and I had a dream one night and it was a very intense dream. And within this dream, I was lifted from my body and I was taken up into the sky. And there was this tree house there, this big tree house with branches. And there was this woman that almost kind of looked like me, but not like me. She had very blue eyes, she had long dark hair, and she sat me at a table in this tree house. You can see the clouds. I can put my arm outside the window. And she asked me to sit down. Michelle, the medium who helped me when I was younger, unfortunately passed away as well from a brain tumor a few years after she helped me. And Michelle was in this dream as well with this woman. And they both sat me down at this table and they said, "You're ready. It's time to open yourself back up." And they gave me a deck of tarot cards and said, "It's time." And then they pushed me out of the treehouse and I woke up. That day, I grabbed my tarot cards that I hadn't touched in quite some time, and then not long after that, I started getting, more training done, and I started opening myself up to it, and then I started providing free readings for clients on TikTok, and then within a month of doing free readings, my schedule booked up, and I was a month booked out, and here I am as a full-time medium. I love it, and it's so rewarding, and I'm just so grateful to be able to do what I do, so that's how I started.
That's an incredible story, and it's interesting because some people who grew up in a religious home, Taylor, like, there's no outlet, there's nobody that's open to this sort of thing, yet your family was so supportive. Was that, like would you say that was something that was really pivotal in supporting you and moving forward and exploring this further?
Most definitely, because I already was so insecure about this part
Mm.
of me. That was such a big part of me. And if I didn't have their support and them pushing me saying, "I've always known you were supposed to do this, you can do it, make it happen," I probably never would have done it because I brought it up and I told the dream to my mom and my sister and my dad, and they're all like, "The universe is telling you you need to do this." And it was the best thing that I ever did for myself. And this work has truly just changed my life. I am such a different person than I was 2 years ago. And it's just incredible the ways that doing this work has transformed me and continues to transform me. It's almost the more healing that I do and provide for others, it helps heal me even more. And it's just a feeling that you just can't describe. So, anybody who's wanting to do this type of work, and if you're being held back because of fears of what others will think about you, please don't let that be the reason that you don't. You're meant to help other people and you're meant to transform their lives. And the way that you're supposed to help them is so much bigger than what someone you barely talk to or barely know is going to think about it. And the right people are going to support you. So I definitely want to touch on that too.
That's such good advice because as a mediumship teacher, I mentor people and the fear of other people's opinions is like the number one thing that holds them back from really stepping into their brilliance, their spiritual power. And I feel it's like in many respects it's like they're denying a part of them when they're denying their abilities, right? Because it's not something we become, it's something who we already are. It's that place where we finally embrace it. So such good
Mhm.
advice. I love that. Question for you. It's very common that mediumship is hereditary. And any
Mm.
other people in your family that are intuitive, sensitive, no
Yeah.
spirit?
Yes, my grandmother on my mom's side, she experienced spirits. She's seen full figures standing in her room. My dad, when he was young, he had the same experiences as me when he was a child. My mom's had similar experiences. My older sister is very, very intuitive. My whole family's very into it and very open to it. Yeah, but no one has been a professional medium. I'm the first one who's started to do this full time and actually have it as a job and to learn about it and get training with it. But yeah.
So, how do you, when you work with your clients, like you're about healing, about providing healing and guidance for your clients, how do you weave that in? So, when your clients are done their session with you, they feel like, the power and the presence of the spirit has really been there and touched their heart. And when clients have that, they feel, well, they are transformed. That's inevitable when you've really had that. How
Mhm,
do you work with clients and how do you work with the spirit world to bring through that healing that's really needed? And I think
mhm.
mediumship is a really good, I don't like the word modality, but I can't think of another word right now. It's a beautiful way in which people can receive that healing that in other ways they can't obtain.
Yeah, it's a good question. Within my readings, one thing I will always explain to my clients first and foremost before I start any session, and to also, make sure that I remain humble with any reading that I do is it's not up to me what comes through in a reading. I explain that to my clients every single time. I don't write the letter, I deliver the message, and
Mhm.
I remind them that why they're here is not to speak directly with me, it's to speak to their loved ones in the spirit world. And I just explain how that works. I say they have been watching over you, they have been waiting for this, and I let them into my energy. They choose what they would like to touch on, what they would like to speak about, and we flow with it. And I always just remind them that the power is in their hands. When I do readings, I am all about very specific evidence and validations within readings. I want the specifics of things that have just happened to be brought up. I want things that you can't find online.
Mhm.
And I've learned that it's so important for you to just let go and let the spirit world take the wheel with it. You have to remind yourself as a developing medium that when you're doing this, you have to let go of control. You interpret, you feel, you pass it on. That's your only job, and that's how you're going to get the strongest messages. I have a perfect example of this, and this is something I share with my clients all the time. This was actually near the beginning of my mediumship when I first started, actually, the first few months of me even doing mediumship. And remember this reading so vividly, and I was connecting my client to her husband, who she unfortunately lost. And he said to me, spider, and showed me a big black spider that I had never seen before. I felt as a beginner, I was like, I feel a little bit silly saying this, but I just have to say it. And I said it to her. I said, he's showing me a spider. This is going to be some sort of sign. Please keep it with you. And she's looking at me a little funny, right? And I'm like, I just got to trust them, let go,
Yeah.
give them the power. And
Yeah.
I did. And about an hour after the session, she sends me an email and she says, I just wanted to let you know that while we had our session, my daughter was with my friend and her daughter. And my friend took them to go to the toy store. And she got them mystery toy boxes. And she got into the car with me and then she said, oh my gosh, we got these mystery toy boxes. I wanted to wait to open it with you. And she's sitting in the front seat with her mom, and there's a bunch of toys in it. And she opens it up, and the very first toy that she opens up is this big, massive black rubber spider about an hour after the session. So just things like that, I just want to show my clients that there is more. And if there is something so random like that that comes forward, I just say it. And if they don't understand it, I say, keep it with you. And yeah, yeah.
I love that. It's very much along the same lines of my philosophy too. I mean, as mediums, we really are these conduits, right? People use the word channel. Channel can be interpreted. And it's funny how you say you delivered the letter, right? I always tell my clients, I'm the post lady. I deliver the messages. I don't know who the sender is. I don't know what's inside. I'm going to find out in real time. Let's see what they want to share. And I think that's really important too as mediums. We really let the spirit world lead because it's their message, their story. It's their loved one they want to talk to. And we're just a means to an end, meaning we're the voice for them. It's not about us. And to really surrender, I think is so, so incredibly powerful. What would you say, Taylor, is like the most rewarding thing that you take away from the work that you do?
It's the moment that when I say hello to my client. I say hello, I introduce myself, I introduce what I do. And right when the session is done and I'm saying my closing speech to them, and I say, I really hope that this has helped you in some way. And I see that big sigh that they let out. It's like I can visually see that weight that's been taken off of them. And
Mhm.
it's an addicting feeling to
Yeah.
be able to provide that for somebody. And not only that, it's just so powerful, and I learned so much about myself through this work too, working with them, and it's just motivating, and the messages that I get after sessions too of them letting me know how much I've helped them, it's just there's no other feeling like it, and you just can't get enough of it. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally, totally. And people go, "What do you mean?" There's something palpable, and I think our English language just doesn't even do it justice when you can bring through like a piece of information that is so specific and accurate, and your client knows, "Okay, all of this sounded good. Yeah, I'm pretty sure, but now I know she's actually channeling." Like, that
Mhm.
is just it's something else. It's something else. It's addicting, absolutely, for sure, because there is nothing in the world that you will get the same feeling from or experience besides mediumship. It is the coolest thing ever. I love it. I love it. Now, you are known for doing spot on readings. Your accuracy and specificity is really, really strong. And we see this from your clips and your readings that you do. How did you get to that place in your mediumship where you could bring through that accuracy on a consistent basis?
That's a very good question. So practice is always number one. That's one
Yeah.
thing. I definitely went through a period where I get a little bit frustrated with myself, with messages not being as clear, and that did not work in my favor at all. And I had to sit with myself and say, why am I being like this? What is this trying to teach me? What is the spirit world trying to teach me? And through this work, it really taught me lots of patience and how to step back and trust. And I don't know what it was. There was just this light switch that went off in my mind one day, and it was, you need to completely release your people pleasing tendencies. You're not here to be a people pleaser, give them exactly what they want. Well, yes, you will have to give them what they're looking for, but I always say it's so important to not let any client control the reading,
Yeah.
to not let yourself control the reading, and to just remember it really is up to the spirit world. Once I let go of the need to control, that's when my readings just went from 0 to 100. And I'll even go into readings, and if there's something that doesn't make sense that I say to a client, every time I just say, no problem, no worries, keep it with you. And as soon as I got to that point where I didn't have stress about that anymore, maybe not having a 100% accurate reading, that's when they just went 0 to 100. Honestly, trust, letting go, trusting that they're gonna catch you when you fall is it's honestly the only way to get that flow within readings, and to not let, stress about if you get something wrong within a reading, and let's say your client's looking at you a certain way, you have to remind yourself you're the professional. It doesn't mean that it's not wrong, and you want them to keep it with you. So definitely that trust. That's the
Yeah.
key.
Oh my goodness, no kidding. It is trust and it's not easy. When I was sitting in circle, I sat in circle for 7 years. Best thing I ever did. I loved it. I was still working probably about 3 years. I started becoming a professional, but I still loved the learning, the growth and the support because let's face it, not everybody understands this, right? And it does. It changes your life. It changes you. It can not but do that. In the middle of the circle, there was a little table. We had a Himalayan salt lamp and there were these stones, and on the stones there was hand painted words. One was patience, another was trust, believe, surrender, and faith. Now my students, if they're listening, they already know this, but like I needed to learn patience, not with the spirit world with me, and have trust, and I actually got them tattooed because I always need that reminder, have patience, right? And I think as mediums we do need to have patience. We can get excited and want to do things with the work, but really the work isn't mediumship if the spirit world's not involved. So would you just let them take the lead, right?
Yeah.
So kind of moving back to your readings, what is like one reading that like really stands out? You're like, holy smokes.
Mm.
that just came through my mediumship.
Mhm.
Oh my God.
Okay. Oh, yes, definitely. This is one that I will always remember. I remember the moment so vividly. I will never forget it. I was doing a live stream reading. And within this live stream, it was on TikTok. And this is where I can't actually see the client. I don't even know their name. I know nothing about them. So I have moderators within my TikTok live stream. They select a person randomly. They selected this woman. I could only see her username, her profile picture. She's responding to me through comments. So we aren't even speaking directly. And her son stepped forward. So I immediately started tuning in with her. I gave her my speech and everything. And I felt this young boy come forward. And he was so sweet. He was so warm. And I just felt that overwhelming sense of love. And he came forward and he said, "Tell my mom that I'm okay and that I was with her today." And I told her that, and then he showed me a paintball, and he threw it against the wall, and blue paint splattered everywhere. And I was like, "This is so interesting. I've never seen something like this before." And I just explained to her what I saw. Then not long after that, he showed me this small red car, and I explained that to her too. And she starts answering in the comments, and she says, "Today I was cleaning underneath my couches, and I was really asking my son for a sign." Her son had unfortunately passed. And she looked underneath her couch, and there was this blue paint palette that was covered in dried blue paint and a little red car right next to it. And
Stop
that,
it.
yeah, and I have the photo of it.
Mm.
And in that moment, she just knew. She's like, "That happened today." And I just popped on this live stream because I felt guided to, and I couldn't believe that I was chosen. And she just knew right then and there, wow, he was with me when I found that, and he pushed me to come on this live stream. So that's definitely one of the most memorable ones, especially because we weren't even speaking directly. It was just she was picked, and then we just went with it, and it was instant. It just happened so fast. He immediately showed me those 2 things, and she just knew. Yeah.
That is powerful. Like, I truly believe the spirit world, even if a client books a session, I believe like spirit, they want to have that conversation with their loved ones just as much as the loved ones want to connect to the other side. And they're often the ones that inspire their loved ones to look at underneath the couch, to drive past a certain block and there's like a big billboard or something, or to go on a TikTok. It just leaves people with no doubt. There's even the best of skeptics. They can only like disregard certain things for so long. And then it's like, there's got to be something to it. There's got to be something to this. And it's incredible. And with mediumship becoming like more mainstream and like really more popular, how do you keep yourself like really grounded and humble in the work that you do? Because you absolutely are. And I think that's something that really resonates about me, is because you got a little sass sometimes when you need it, and I love it. I love it. I've been known to have that a little bit myself, but you're heart-centered and you're so ethical. Where does that come from within you? Because honestly, people just assume mediums are like that, and they're not, and you have a large
Mm,
following on your socials. So, like, where does that come from for you, and how do you stay anchored into that?
yeah, that's a great question. I will say, honestly, I feel that lots of it does stem from how I grew up.
Mhm.
I didn't grow up in a household when I was young where it was a comfortable place for me to feel safe speaking about how I felt and all of that. And that's a big reason why I am how I am, because I want everybody that I come across to feel heard in the ways that when I was young, I didn't feel heard. So
Mhm.
it definitely has to do with how I grew up, that emotional side of things. The other side of it is you're supposed to help people. That's what this work is about. You're not supposed to put questions in people's minds. They don't understand it. You're supposed to teach them about it. And I just can empathize and feel with the pain of the loss of a loved one and how it feels. And if you aren't careful with your words and you don't learn the ethics and the mechanics of mediumship, you can destroy somebody's life, and it needs to be taken extremely seriously. And I was taught that even at 12, 13 by Michelle. And I know that she's in the spirit world watching over me and proud of what I'm doing now. But that was one of the things that she explained to me was she said, if you're going to do this, make sure that you go to somebody who you trust, who has a good
Yeah.
representation and is ethical. And that's what I did. And I listened to her. And even you could be the most amazing medium in the world, but it's so important for you to not add yourself in any way onto your work. That's one thing I also learned. You can't work through belief systems. You need to interpret the energy and the stimulus exactly as it's coming, and you can't add yourself in any way onto it. That's just how I was trained with it. I feel that every medium should be trained in that way. And another thing too is just you can't have an ego with this work. You got to dismiss the ego. You got to put it to the side. You have to let it rest. And I mean, I'm human. I have my moments, of course, where you know, maybe I'll see somebody say something negative to me and I got to put myself in my place and just say, hold on, this has nothing to do with you. Anybody on the internet who has time in their day to say something negative to somebody else or see negativity within something that somebody else is doing that's just trying to help other people is a sad and unhappy person. So it's all about just reminding yourself, keeping yourself grounded and not those negative people that come up are put in your path for a reason, and it's to
Mhm.
test you energetically. Don't fall for the trap of, letting them get to you energetically. I just feel that you can't truly be successful in this work if you're not doing it for the right reasons too. If you're
Abs
doing yeah, you cannot be in this work if you're doing it for you and how you wanna come across. It's about your clients and helping them. It's not about you. So I'm just very, very big about that.
I love that. Absolutely. We really are these messengers. We really are. And we're not it's not about us. Yes, we're a medium and we're important because every person is important, but the work that we do is so sacred and holy. There are so many people that have these abilities, but not everybody steps into it. And the people that step into it, I feel really need to. And I just totally agree with every sentiment that you shared because this work that we do is so sacred. And we really are in the position to empower people and to help bring a level of healing that cannot be found through other means or practices or therapeutic approaches. And so the people that we see that come to us for readings, some of them are in the most desperate, darkest times in their life. And to be able to hold space for somebody, they're literally taking their heart and putting it in our hands. And we have to be so mindful about how we deal with these people because, I mean, I've had experiences where their loved ones have come through and they've shared the state their living loved one is in right now. And it's not good. Where, without going into a lot of detail, they would wanna be with their loved one in spirit. And so, how you handle that with such gentleness and etiquette is so, so important, and I mean, how do we promote ourselves? Yes, we're on social media, we have to show up and be visible and all that kinda stuff, but yeah, again, it's just not about us, and so I love you had an amazing teacher, by the way, and she's still working with you, and I love it. Thank you, Michelle, we need more mediums like Tayla. That's incredible.
Oh,
That's amazing. So
thank you.
without giving away, like, any details, can you, like, share a story of a client who had, like, a major breakthrough in a session with you?
Yes. Oh, yep. There is, and I can actually share this because I've actually had permission from this specific client that I'm allowed to share this part of her life, by the way, for everybody. So I will share this story. I'm not going to say any names or anything, but she had unfortunately lost her son due to unaliving himself, and she was struggling for quite some time. And I could see that, desperation within her. She wanted to see me like every week, every month, and I had to just sit with her and I said, I want to help you. I said, but we should do this every 6 months, maybe once a year. Because if you're not in the right state or you're grieving too much, please don't get a reading. You're not going to retain the information in the way that you need to. Utilize that time when you're grieving to recover from the initial grief and ask your loved ones to lead you to the medium that you're supposed to have a reading from. Please don't let, these vulnerable feelings that you're experiencing, which are understandable. It's very hard that you're going through that, but don't let those vulnerable feelings lead you to just any medium or anyone who's available for you right away. Somebody who's ethically trained and they know what they're doing is worth the wait, and your loved ones will lead you there. So anyway, I explained that to her, and we had our first session, and I connected her to him. And I think it was we had our third session, so it was about third session, yeah, a year and a half after the first one. And we had that session, and she looked at me and she said, "I want to share something with you." And I said, "What?" And she said, "You told me how proud my son was of me, of how far I've come. And I haven't told you at all, but I've been really struggling with substance abuse since he passed for the last 10 years." She said, "I haven't wanted to be here anymore." And in that moment, she looked at me and she said, "I haven't touched any substances in a year since our first reading. And I just wanted to tell you that."
Mm.
And I'm like getting emotional thinking about it right now because it's just insane and beautiful. And it just makes me so happy that our readings helped her in that way. And she's still sober. I talk to her, we text, we message, and she's sober. She's doing so, so good. So, yeah, that's
Totally.
definitely not getting all emotional here. And she's just the
The tears
sweetest
are
lady.
the
Oh,
tears are coming. Holy shit. Sorry.
mhm. No, don't be
Oh my
sorry. I'm
God.
crying over here too.
That is
Yeah, she
so
she's doing so good, and I'm so proud
uh,
of her. And she
wow.
did that herself though. She accepted the healing and did that herself. And if you're listening to this, I'm so proud of you and I love you and you know who you are.
That's so powerful. And see, this is the stuff that people need to realize. Mediumship isn't a novelty. It's not just about summoning the so-called dead, even though I would say they're not dead. They just don't have bodies. They're still very much alive. They're still very around.
Yeah.
That's the power that happens with this work that we do. That literally changes lives. That's absolutely freaking incredible. Oh my God, Tayla, I love that. Like, oh my God. Wow. I'm gonna recompose here for a minute.
Aw.
Yeah, because it's so sweet though. Like really to be able to change somebody's life is just wild. Because I mean, how can you do that another way? It's
Mhm.
so unique. And really the spirit world is there supporting you and supporting her as
Yeah.
well. That is just so moving. I love that. You do a lot of readings. You do a lot of
Yeah.
readings. You
Yes.
help a lot of people. What would you say is like the most common feedback you get from people after they've had a session with you or like at the end of the session? What is something that
Mm.
really y- stands out or like you hear a lot from the people that have had a reading with you?
I feel that mostly it's feedback of them thinking about the very specific and random things that came forward and thinking about it after the fact, and they'll just email me and just say, that they can't believe that those specific details were picked up on, and that they're just feeling so much lighter and happier and motivated to move forward for sure. Yeah, definitely that. They'll always touch on the details that are specifically picked up on. That's my goal. That's what I want. I want those specifics there. It's best feeling.
That's when people know they're actually communicating with their loved ones in spirit is
Yep.
that specificity. And I always tell my students, we want to stay away from clair vagueness and bring in the strong
Yeah.
clarity because that's when people know, oh my God, wow, that's
Yep.
incredible. You really are
Yep.
connected with my loved one. And then that's where you get your rebooked clients or repeat clients.
Hmm.
They're like,
Yep.
she's really doing this.
Hmm.
We're really communicating. And
Yep.
that's so, so powerful. A little bit about you. I know that you like to continue like on your growth and discovery and always learning about the spirit world. What would be like one thing that has really fascinated you or really supported you in the work that you do that you've learned from the spirit world? Because I know, oh, there's another orb that was on the screen. And by the way, guys, before Tayla and I started recording, there was a massive orb that was floating around the screen. It was not a dust particle. It definitely had a unique movement. And then there was just one that was above her head too. So
Mhm.
spirit's definitely there with you. I love it. It's gorgeous. You are into this continuous growth. What is, in mediums we read a lot, we learn, we can take classes, but like what is something you've actually learned from the spirit world that you didn't find in any textbook or any
Mm,
article online?
that's a really good question. Definitely the biggest thing that the spirit world has taught me is that gratitude and love are the key to life. The key
Mhm,
to life, it's that if you are not living a life of showing that you feel gratitude for the things that you have, even when they're not as good, and you aren't a loving person towards anybody else around you, you're not going to have a happy life. The key to a happy life is love and being a service to others and helping others. And in return, and helping others, that helps you. Once you start to have that perspective that love is just key to everything, your life's just going to change. Perspective is everything. And another big thing that they've taught me is anytime something negative happens to me, I always ask myself, why? Why
mhm,
is this happening? What is this trying to teach me? And I actually talk to my spirit guides and I say, okay, what are you trying to teach me right now? What is it? I'm agitated. I'm irritated. I'm feeling these low vibrational energies. What are you trying to teach me? And I've learned to just sit with that, living in the stillness, sitting with your negative emotions and letting yourself navigate them. And then being able to flip it into gratitude for the negative things that are happening to you. That's the biggest thing that they have taught me. Because if you noticed, I'm sure lots of people listening have noticed, or even maybe you, Courtney, have noticed that things that haven't worked for you
mhm.
were actually just this big blessing in disguise. And it really is. When something's not working, it's trying to lead you in the direction you're meant to go in. That's the biggest thing the spirit world has taught me. It's changed my life to think about life like that.
That's so powerful. It really, really is. And I mean, that you can write a book about that. You know, it is so powerful. It's how we view things and beautiful lessons that the spirit world teaches us. And they're not just working with us so we can do these readings. They also work with mediums to help us spiritualize ourselves, to really step into our own so we can still be human and still have these human experiences, but learn the spiritual lessons from them, if that makes sense, right? They always have our back. And that's what I love about this work is even in times where we feel alone or we're in a moment, they are there unconditionally, nonstop supporting us. And to have that connection, I think really supports mediums in doing this work. Because let's face it, it's not always easy doing this work. We're dealing with grief, we're dealing with like really deep emotions. And sometimes it's not always easy, right? We're empathic. You feel you're holding space for people. And how can you not have emotion or empathy for these people, but yet we have to kind of keep it a little bit at base so we can actually do the work, right? That's
Mhm.
so beautiful. Now, I know a lot of people follow you for information about the afterlife and spirituality, but I did check out your website and you're going to be doing some mentorship soon. Is that correct?
Yes, it's in the works. It's in the works right now. That's the next step to everything. I'm hoping to have that figured out soon. I'm just working on it and I just want to make sure that it's the best that it can be before I release it. So I've been working on it for quite some time and I don't exactly know when it's going to be ready yet, but I'm going to try to have it done as soon as I can. Yeah.
What would be some like golden nuggets of advice that you would have for somebody that's just starting out, exploring, developing, looking at their mediumship abilities?
That's a great question. Definitely number one, practice, for sure.
Mm,
Practice, just practice over and over. If you start to get frustrated with yourself, that's your sign to yourself. You probably shouldn't be continuing a reading and you need to take some space and take a step back. You're human, it's going to happen. You're going to have those frustrations. Um, just remember that also you can never force how fast you develop your mediumship. You can't. It takes time, it takes development, it takes practice. And if you start to notice yourself wanting to be in a place where maybe another medium is, that's another sign. Maybe you need to take a break, you need to take a step back. Another big piece of advice, please do not ever compare yourself to any other medium.
Yeah.
You are going to be able to offer something that another medium can't offer. And this is my thing that I always say to myself, certain mediums are meant for certain people. I know that every client who comes to me is meant for me. And those people who come to me, I'll be able to provide them something that maybe another medium can't. But there's other people who probably shouldn't come to me because a different medium is meant for them. So you'll have your groups of people that are meant for you that need something that you offer that maybe another medium can't. Always remember that comparison. Don't compare yourself to any other medium. It's not going to help you. Be you, embrace you. That's how you're going to be successful with it. Be authentic. Be authentic, and people are going to be drawn to you. Also, be authentic so the right people can find you. That's what I always say.
Absolutely. You know, I mean, I got in the comparison trap when I started sitting in circle, and it was an intermediate circle, and I was a newbie, but my teacher threw me in there. So I was like, okay. And I did compare myself, Taylor. Like there were some mediums that had been sitting for like 10, 15 years. I was like, oh shit, that's a lot. Like, who am I? And they were bringing through incredible evidence. And then their messages were beautiful. I was like, I don't even know how to do that. What am I doing here? But of course, the development, you learn how to do that. It's not easy, but then, as I've developed and grown into my mediumship, I realize, and I share this with my students, you are doing yourself and the spirit world a disservice when you're trying to be like another medium. Your lived experience, the good, the bad, the ugly, everything in between, all of that has made up you. Your lived experiences form your mediumship, and spirit will guide the right people to you. And just like you said, we're not a one size fits all medium, right? There's some
Hmm.
mediums that are going to be able to work better with certain people based on their personality, their traits, their experiences, right? And that's okay. Like I had one lady who contacted me through my website. She was referred to me from a friend, and I had a picture and I have sleeves, like tattoos. And she messaged me. She's like, "Hi, Courtney, referred to you. Would love to get a reading, but then I saw that you have tattoos, and I can't do that." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And I was hurt at first, right?
Hmm.
And then Spirit's like, but would you really wanna work with somebody who judges somebody by the exterior? And I go, "Thanks, guys. Thank you. I just dodged a bullet." Right?
Exactly. Yes. And that was also the spirit world working behind the scenes. That could have happened maybe because that had to be a quick for her that maybe you obviously weren't the right person
Yeah.
for her. Yeah. Yeah. You
Interesting
know,
though, how
yeah.
this stuff happens. Now, um, we know that you're working and you're always refining your mediumship. What are, like, some of your go-to practices?
Go-to practices. Well, downtime is very important to me. That is one thing. Honestly, my go-to practices are not doing anything, honestly, like letting myself be able to recharge my battery. One
Yeah.
thing that I always do too. So this is my session room that I'm in right now. As soon as I walk out that door, I'm not connecting to spirit. I'm not feeling anything. I'm not tuning in with anybody unless it's an emergency. That's my deal with the spirit world. I say, if there's something really urgent that you need to share with me, you're welcome to come through. But it's really important for me to make sure I have my sacred space because that's where, you can get into your thinking mind. When you're in your thinking mind, that doesn't make for a very clear channel. It doesn't make for a very good reading most of the time because you can't be having thoughts that are not your own. So definitely letting myself have space between my work and what I do. That honestly is the most important practice for me.
Absolutely, it's balance, right?
Mhm.
So, what do you have on the horizon? Big dreams, goals, like, as a medium, as a spiritual teacher, what's coming up for you?
I am very excited to start teaching. That's definitely my next goal, what I want to do. I'm working on that right now, and I'm really excited to kind of have that shift and maybe focus on that. I'll still be doing readings. I
Yeah.
always want to be doing readings, but I'm excited to add that on. And then within readings, I want to just keep growing and evolving and developing and keep learning from the spirit world so I can just become the best that I can be to help more and more people. Yeah.
That's exciting. Do you have anything up and coming that you want to share with the listeners? And also, if you could just let them know how they can find you and get in touch with you. By the way,
Oh, yeah.
everybody, all of this info will be in the show notes too, you guys.
Yes. So, in regards to the mentorship program, you can be notified about when it's released. I don't have an exact date, but on my Instagram story, it will also be on my website. You can find me on www.taylaisabella.com. My Instagram is medium Tayla Isabella, and my TikTok is medium Tayla Isabella. I would also just like to touch on the fact that those are my only social media accounts. I have people impersonating me a lot, especially on TikTok. So I don't reach out to anybody for a reading. The only way you can schedule with me is through taylaisabella.com.
Perfect. And you guys and gals that are listening, ethical mediums do not DM you. They do not contact you for a reading. And I'm glad that you shared that because some people go, "Well, I get messages from you." And I go, "No, you didn't." I would
Yeah.
never do that. So
Mhm.
good to know. So everybody, you can check out Tayla's information in the show notes. Tayla, thank you so much, sweetheart, for coming on the show, sharing your voice with my listeners. It's been so great to get to connect with you and to be able to have you just share your wisdom and people can get to know you a little bit more from my audience to yours.
Thank you so much for having me. It was so nice to meet you and connect with you. And I really enjoyed that conversation. And thank you to you all who are taking the time to listen to me and Courtney today. We appreciate it.
I appreciate it.